Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Mr. Secretary. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
I want to follow up on Representative Letlow's questions with the concern that, this problem with FAFSA. I'm wondering if resources were diverted from the department's people who could have been implementing FAFSA, working on the the cancellation of $144 billion in federal student loans. Can you tell me how many people were working on the canceling student loans and what resources were used in that process?
Sure. So the way it works at the Department of Education, we have the Office of the Undersecretary that is working on helping develop policies to provide debt relief to millions of Americans who are really at risk of default or having issues. So that's the process where we develop, whether it's through rulemaking or through different proposals. The implementation of those, when it comes to the student accounts, goes through the federal student aid offices. So it's not that we're taking employees from the federal student aid office to sit at OUS to work on policies. That's not how it works. There are, let's say, 28 million people that have to go back into repayment. They have to go into repayment either way. If they have debt discharge, there are changes to their accounts that lead to the debt discharge. So there is no strategy where we're taking folks from one building and saying, go to this building to work on this strategy that we have to fix the problem.
But I would assume implementing, $144 billion in debt, canceling that debt would require resources and focus that would take people maybe who could have been working on FAFSA and improving that situation. Do you not see that? Or?
Well, I think, operationalizing our policies falls under FSA, regardless of what the policies are. So I think I'd rather communicate it that way, that we're working really hard on fixing a broken system, which means providing a lifeline to millions of Americans who right now are underwater and need help.
Okay.
The FSA is the body that's implementing the decisions that were being made in other places.
Okay. Have you heard, in my district, I hear from parents who paid for their children's education and feel that it's unjust to say, okay, some people are having their loans forgiven, but they had to pay everything. People who went into the skilled trades who didn't take out student debt and made that decision, and they're saying now I have to subsidize people who chose to take on student debt going to college. I hear from students who work part-time or took time in their career and then went back to school. They aren't getting their student loans. Do you see the fundamental injustice in how this administration has picked winners and losers in this process?
Thank you for that question, Congressman. And I have met with people across the country who have shared different perspectives and listened to them thoroughly. I think my response to that is that messaging makes sense if we're protecting the status quo. We have a very broken higher education system. So many, and as a former school principal who's spoken to students who said, I can't go to college, that's too expensive for me. At 11 years old, this kid who's one of the smartest kids in my school, in front of his father, normalizing, I'm not going to college.
Well,
we have to fix a system,
But
sir.
what you're doing is subsidizing a broken system.
You could make
right?
the same
And you're
case,
creating incentives for people not to do what the families that saved, what the people who made decisions going into the skilled trades. You're incentivizing people to not pay back student loans and at the same time penalizing and forcing people who did to subsidize those who didn't.
Sir, thank you for sharing that perspective. I don't see it that way. I would feel that the people that received loans, PPP loans, were given support when they needed it most to get back on their feet. We have over 1 million people defaulting on loans. So we have a responsibility to fix it. And I agree with you wholeheartedly on the career and technical education tracks. We are doing more in this administration to create pathways to trades, to make sure that all the great work of the Invest in America provisions that we meet the moment. So I agree with you on that, and I don't see it as unfair. I see it as we're fixing something that's broken. We have better repayment plans now, so we don't have to be in the business of forgiving loans in the future. But we have an inequity that we're leveling now to get to a future that has greater accountability, higher Pell dollars, and making sure that people can pay off their loans.
Well, I just want you to know I'm hearing from parents, I'm hearing from students, I'm hearing from people who went on different tracks that they feel like it's fundamentally unfair, and I just want you to have that message. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Moolenaar.